everybody. Welcome to another episode of Everything Horror Podcast. I am your host tonight, Paul Doski, with my lovely fiance,
Tessa Baker.
And we have a very interesting interviewee tonight. He is creating a very interesting documentary based on the history of both metal music and the horror genre. So I'd like to introduce Mike Schiff. Hi, Mike.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good. How about you?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, hey, thank you. I mean, if it wasn't for your email, I wouldn't have even known this existed. So thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Now, Mike, if you wouldn't mind, for people that may not know you, like me and Tessa here and everybody that's listening, could you give us a brief origin story of who you are and how you got into the horror and, if you want, metal music?
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Bronx, New York, and I got into horror, I guess, when I was really young. My dad was a huge horror fan. He was a big fan of like the Universal Monsters and the Hammer films, and I kind of caught the bug, soon after I was able to walk. And so, I was a huge horror fan ever since I was a kid. I originally wanted to be a special effects makeup artist. That was my main thing, and then just going along the way, I went to film school and realized I wanted to be more behind the camera and writing screenplays and things like that. I wasn't too huge into music in general until later on. I think my first introduction to music that I started buying in the stores was probably like horror movie soundtracks. So I'd buy the Elm Street soundtracks and Lost Boys soundtrack, all that kind of stuff. And then I'd say probably in the mid to late 90s is when I really started getting into heavier stuff, and that's when I became more of a metal fan. So I've been a fan of both these genres for a long time. So basically, a couple of years ago, I was attending Kirk Hammett's Fear Fest the Evil convention that my friend and producer Rob Lucas got me involved with, and after attending that, I just saw that there was, Kirk pretty much brought in metal and horror people together for these big events, and I was just kind of looking at the overall scene and thinking to myself, has there ever been a documentary on why there's this strong connection between the two genres? And apparently no one's made a documentary on it, so I figured it would be a good time to start working on one.
I definitely like the idea, and I must say I gotta give props to your illustrator for the awesome image as well. So,
he did great work.
Oh yeah, it's very. I'm trying to think of the word here. I don't want to say like Royal Rumble-ish, but it almost seems like a Royal Rumble going on. We see like Alice Cooper, I think, going up against Freddy, and then we see Corey Taylor up against The Exorcist, and a few other interesting, cool things. So, and we even got Nosferatu.
Yeah, Nosferatu is battling Ozzy, and we got a couple of characters in there. So yeah, Brian Allen was the artist behind that, and I just kind of gave him the characters I wanted, and who to pin who against who and stuff like that. So he put it all together, and yeah, I definitely recommend everyone go check out his site as well. And if anyone needs any kind of artwork done, he's really good.
Well, that definitely great, and he seems to be very good from what I've seen, and I gotta check out any other stuff that he had done in the past to really get a better idea of his work as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Mike, before you went into this post-production, of course, but was there ever a time where you actually had to take any classes to learn how to be like a script writer or like a director or anything like to get the feel behind the camera or in front of the camera to maybe tell somebody like this is what to do or something?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I started. I guess my first experience behind the camera was in junior high school. We had our part of our art class was geared towards animation, so we'd use these 8mm cameras, and we'd do these little claymations and different types of animations and stuff. Then I got into high school, and I kind of kept the bug, and they luckily had a couple of really good film programs in high school, which was not common in the Bronx at that time. But yeah, that's where I really started learning about screenwriting and really working on composition of shots with the cameras and film editing, and then I continued on into college and then really just worked on my skills there and took even more classes to kind of work on those skills. And ever since then, I've just been freelancing, working for various companies and clients, and working on my own productions and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely a lot of training in school, and of course I'm always still learning. Luckily, with the internet, there's all kinds of different resources out there to learn new techniques and learn about new equipment and things like that. So it's an ongoing process, and every project I work on, I learn a lot from doing that. So it's been a great experience.
Yeah, exactly. It's really hard to keep up with the world nowadays, anyways, as equipment evolves almost every 2, 3, 4 years or so. It always changes, and there's always something new to the table, which makes it that much easier to create a movie or anything, really. I mean, people now can just use their cell phone and just record the video and then just edit it later.
Oh yeah,
or even
well, and there are all kinds of different like film challenges out there to shoot. I mean, there are people who are shooting feature films on iPhones and stuff. And the thing is, I mean, if you really know how to light and compose your shots well, you're gonna come out with a pretty decent product, no matter what. But yeah, I mean, the technology and cameras are just constantly changing. I mean, I bought different cameras along the way, just working on this project. I try to stay consistent, even though I upgraded my gear. I still use the same cameras that I did from the very first day, just to keep the look consistent. But I'm probably going to mix it up a bit. I mean, I shot most of the interviews with Canon 5D Mark IIIs, the DSLR cameras, and then kind of last year I bought a Sony FS7 Mark II. So I'm shooting some stuff with that, because this documentary is also going to have a wraparound film that's going to help tie all the different segments together, and that's going to be much more cinematic. So I'm using that camera for the more fancy cinematic scenes in between the regular documentary portions.
Oh, that's interesting. I was almost gonna maybe ask you more about that later on. I think maybe if I do come down to that question, maybe I won't have to say it, or maybe I can elaborate more. But we'll see. Yeah.
So, what about metal music and horror movies makes you want to create this history of metal and horror documentary?
Well, I mean, I think the two genres are just so strong and have been around for so long. I mean, horror's been around forever. I mean, it goes back centuries with different tribes sharing horror stories, and more advanced civilizations writing more advanced horror stories, and then of course moving into film. So horror's been around for a very, very long time, and it's going to stay that way. And metal, of course, hasn't been around as long, but it's still a growing form of music, and I think that's also going to stick around for a while. But there's a correlation between the two that you don't really find too much elsewhere. I mean, if you go to a horror convention, you'll see a lot of people wearing metal T-shirts, and if you go to a metal concert, you're going to see a lot of people wearing horror T-shirts. And pretty much most fans of horror are into metal, and vice versa. So there's a very, very strong connection there, and pretty much all the guys that I interviewed, all the metal guys that are in the documentary, big names in metal, of course, and they're all horror fans. I mean, they have a real passion for the genre ever since they were little kids. I mean, you'll see in the documentary they'll share stories of their first introduction to horror, and they're just really just like all of us. I mean, we're just big nerds when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I wanted to work on a project that kind of brought it all together and kind of explored why there is this connection. Like, why do people who like one like the other almost equally?
That is always a great question to ask anyway, but to get it from big names, such as, like, example would be Corey Taylor from Slipknot and Stone Sour, which I noticed your big list going on in Indiegogo, which it seems like you restarted that back up, or however that worked with Indiegogo, because I'm still getting used to Indiegogo a little bit, like, and I noticed too, um, like, all the stuff about your film, of course, but now the idea that I was almost wondering too is, with the whole metal and horror thing, does it also come into play as with Corey Taylor? He's known for, like I said, the lead singer, Slipknot, and he's also known for, making a different mask every album. Which, with this new album that Slipknot is working on, he's even making a new mask with Tom Savini now.
Yeah, gee, I wonder how that came about.
I wonder, right?
There's another story behind that too, but I don't know. I don't know how much I can give away about that, but
right.
Let's just say I had a little something to do with that kind of coming about.
Right. So I was just wondering, is there some sort of thing in the documentary in a weird way, like something like that? Like, does Corey mention something about the horror aspects of making masks or something? Like, I'm trying to figure out the right word in here. So, but I was just wondering, because I was like, well, that would make sense, because Corey could make a horror mask to help represent the metal music that Slipknot is known for.
Oh yeah. No, there's definitely a part where a section where a lot of the metal artists talk about how horror has influenced their stage performances, their look, and everything. So Corey definitely talks about the masks and how they played a part, and how the band overall he pretty much talks about the entire band being horror fans, and how horror influenced their look and their music and everything like that.
That's pretty cool. And it's always interesting to see the behind the scenes of stage performances, in which another band I'll just mention real quick is that you guys were able to interview is one nameless ghoul, and another one is a unknown ghoul from the band Ghost. So that's cool. So they probably put in their insight too about their stage performance as well, because they're getting to be well known to the point where the lead singer once said something about they want their show to almost be like a like a theater or something like that, where it's always something different, or it's like a weird story while watching the band play the song or something like that. I forget how he worded it, but I thought it would be very interesting.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely a lot of influence from musical theater, Phantom of the Opera, shows like that, and that's also something that's covered in the documentary as well. They'll get into that. There's definitely a lot of talk of ghosts in the documentary.
Very cool. Very cool.
What has been one of the hardest things making this documentary?
The hardest thing is really just working with limited funds and limited resources. I couldn't have done this alone, and I didn't do it alone. I definitely had help from my friend and producer Rob Lucas, from Brian Slagle from Metal Blade Records, Jose Mangan from SiriusXM, and so with the help of those guys, I was really able to lock down a lot of these interviews, which I couldn't have done just kind of coming out of nowhere. I mean, I was friendly with these guys prior to working on this, so I was able to kind of turn to them and say, hey, look, I'm looking to do this documentary. Do you think you could help in getting some of these artists for me? So they put me in touch with their management. They put in a good word for me, and that's pretty much how everything came together. And of course, once people started seeing who else was on the roster, then it made things a lot easier to get more interviews after the fact. But it's not a big Hollywood production. It's an independent, low budget project. It's a passion project of mine. So a lot of it was working out of pocket. and the rest was through the prior crowdfunding campaigns that I had before the one that's on now, and that really helped a lot as far as helping me afford the travel expenses, the hotel expenses, the equipment expenses, paying whatever crew I needed at any particular time. I mean, luckily I shot and edited everything myself, so I was able to save money there. And I've had really great friends help out, and of course my lovely wife has helped along the way and helping conduct a lot of the interviews while I was running the cameras and sound and lights and all that kind of stuff too. So it could have been a lot more expensive than it really was, but it's still something that took a long time. One, because it's not like hiring actors and crew and everything, and you set a couple of weeks and say, all right, well, we're going to shoot for these weeks and get the entire film done and in the can. It's, well, you got to wait till so and so is off of the tour. Stop. They're not working on the album. They're not working on the movie. So a lot of it was just waiting for artists to become available, and some interviews took well over a year to get, but well worth it, of course. And I'm sorry, again.
I was just saying, I'm just agreeing with you about it's well worth it. Like I was saying, oh yeah, because I've seen your list. You got one impressive list on Indiegogo.
Yeah, and of course, if you go to metalhorror.com on the artist page, you'll see everyone laid out there as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm really fortunate to have had these guys and gals to commit to the project and donate their time to making this happen. I mean, they're really they're big fans of what I'm doing with this, and I mean, I definitely feel honored to have been in their presence and be able to interview them, which is not something that a lot of people really get to do. So I'm definitely very privileged to have been able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's always really cool when you find these type of connections, I'll say, and it's really nice to also know that there's people that like your idea that are also willing to help out at whatever cost they can give. And I remember too, back in high school, I actually emailed Metal Blade as well when I had to write a interesting report about like something to do with like the business and like money and something like that, or it was something about like money when it came to, I think it was like Metal Blade website designer or something. I can't exactly remember, but just Metal Blade alone seems to be like a really down to earth people and even willing to help out a high schooler just write a report. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, everyone at Metal Blade, Brian Slagle and the rest of the staff there have been really great and very helpful in helping me get what I need for this project. And Brian Slagle, of course, is one of the executive producers on the documentary as well. So yeah, I've been it's been great. It's been great working with everyone, and of course, a lot of the managers to the artists have been really great as well, very accommodating. So I've been having a great experience working with all of them.
Is there anyone else helping you with creating this project?
Helping in the creation of it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, a lot of it is really just kind of on my shoulders at this point. I do have friends in the business who I have shown the rough cuts to, just to get a little bit of extra input, another couple of set of eyes to take a look at things, because I've been so focused on this project for so many years now. Sometimes I need a little bit of outside, opinions to check it out. So I've had a couple of good friends look at it and give me a couple of notes, and I've applied those notes to cut things down a bit, trim a little bit here, move that over there, and it's definitely helped in piecing it together. But as far as the actual production goes, I mean, it's really just bringing friends along and guys who have some free time and who are really interested in the project to come aboard and just help with the interviews. I mean, the interviews themselves are really just two-person jobs. It's me mostly behind the cameras, running all the equipment, and one person sitting down reading off the questions that I prepared in advance. But of course, I can't do anything. I think there was one interview that I might have done solo. I think that was with Wednesday 13. I interviewed him on a tour bus. and I just didn't have anyone else to help me that day. So I'm running 2 cameras, lights, audio, and I'm interviewing him at the same time. So that was a little bit challenging, and luckily that's not something I had to do outside of that one day. But yeah, I mean, outside of the creation, it's pretty much just me as far as the creative aspect of it goes.
Wow. Now, how long have you been working on this project?
I think I started in 2014, so we're going on like 5 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't really set a timetable for it. It wasn't like, all right, I'm going to start now and I'm going to be done at this point. It was I was kind of hoping to be done within maybe 2 years or so. But of course, once I got into it, I realized that things don't really work that quickly. Sometimes you just have to wait for things to come together and wait for artists to become available and things like that. So, and then there were a couple of points where I thought, all right, well, I got all the interviews I need, I'm done. And then someone reaches out or says, hey, we got Rob Zombie's finally available. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to keep on shooting. So that kind of stuff happened. And of course, we interviewed Marky Ramone not too long ago. That's something that a friend got to hook me up with. And there's still a couple of other artists out there who people are trying to put me in touch with, and I'm not going to say anything now just because it might not happen. But if any of those come through it, then I'll still film those and put them in as well. But at some point, like, it all just has to stop. And I mean, I think with the people that I have now, I'm good to go. I mean, I could definitely stop now and be good with it. But yeah, I mean, if anyone else just happens to become available that would be really great to include, then sure, I'll still shoot that and include them.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I guess at a 2-year goal in mind at first could have been doable, but you would already had to have known who you would have already been interviewing, so that way you could set up for that, plan the motels and all that stuff as well. But then it seems like your list just keeps getting bigger. So, and I mean, just out of curiosity, if you can say anything, but do you know how long this documentary plans to maybe be?
I'm trying to work it as close to 90 minutes as possible. I started out with a 4-hour edit, and that of course just wasn't anything I was going to release like that. I knew I had to cut it down to a more tight project, so that so if we're showing this in a theater or something like that, I mean, it's gotta be able to keep the audience's attention and get to the point and keep them interested and not get bored. And I was finding that cutting down from 4 hours to 2 hours and then to an hour and a half, there was just a lot of stuff in there that's really interesting stuff, but it would just make the project way too long. But the good thing is that with Blu-ray and digital downloads and things like that, I can still make all those extra materials available. Like, we interviewed Alice Cooper for close to an hour. So even though there's not an hour's worth of Alice Cooper in the documentary itself, a lot of that stuff is going to become available on Blu-ray and bonus features and things like that. So if anybody wants to see an hour-long interview with Alice Cooper, then they'll get a chance to do that as well.
That's awesome. I was actually looking at your Indiegogo, and I was wondering, is there any type of difference at all between a regular DVD and a Blu-ray? Because I know sometimes DVD don't hold as much as they used to, or we would like. But with Blu-ray, where they can hold a shitload.
Yeah.
So is there a difference between the two at all?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the details are still going to be worked out for that, but the DVD will probably be pretty much just the bare bones documentary by itself, and then because the Blu-ray can hold extra material, then I'll probably have some bonus features on there. But I think even with a single Blu-ray disc, I won't be able to fit as much stuff as I'd like. So there may be, after the fact, there may be a couple of special edition Blu-rays that might be a multi-disc type set or a multi-disc DVD, depending on what the demand is at that point. With online streaming and different online services, then it's a lot easier. You could pretty much just upload every single thing as its own file, and people can purchase them from there. Even a la carte, they don't even have to buy like a packaged Blu-ray or DVD or anything like that. They can buy the documentary. They can maybe pick a couple of extended interviews, the ones that they really want to see, and things like that. So we're going to explore a couple of different options once we get to that point. As far as the release goes, I'm not too sure when that's going to happen. I mean, the people who have already donated to the campaign, who have purchased those perks, I want to take care of them as soon as possible because they've already put the money up. But just as far as doing film festivals and things like that, they have some requirements themselves. Sometimes they can't be the film can't be already released and available to the public when you're doing film festivals. So I think I definitely want to do a film festival circuit and have some screenings around the country. So I'll probably have to hold off on doing an official release on the film until that happens. But we'll see. I mean, the thing right now is to just get this thing done, get it packaged and ready to go, and then I can start exploring all the different options.
Just sounds like a buttload of thing to be prepared pretty soon.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't know. It sounds almost like a headache. Like, it sounds like you got the idea in mind of what you want to do, especially with the film festivals. It does kind of suck that you can't, like, give the public at least something besides the digital thing, but it does make sense to maybe give them at least the digital content at least, because then at least it doesn't really count that it's available for the public, I believe. Mm-hmm. It's more like a screener in a way, I should say. But let me see, where am I going with this? Right. So it's almost like if you were to give me a screener of it, and that's fine. But if you were to send me a Blu-ray and trying to go to like a film fest, I don't think that's gonna work because I think that might already qualify as public thing or being in the public domain because of it already being on a DVD. But then as you wait, like I don't know if you're familiar with a horror movie called Bong of the Living Dead.
Which one?
Bong of the Living
Bong
Dead.
of the Living Dead? No.
They did the film festival route for a couple years, and then they finally were able to put the movie out on DVD after the film festival runs.
Right.
So maybe, like you were saying, maybe that's something you could even do too.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, and I don't want to frustrate too many people, especially those who have already donated to the campaign, because I know that they've already waited several years for the thing. But at the same time, I just want to make sure that because I've dedicated so many years to this project, that I really do everything the right way, and where I reap the most benefits and things like that. So I think it would be good to run the film festival circuit and have some big screenings and things like that. So I don't want to pass up on all that to rush this thing out. So I'll time everything in a way where hopefully people won't be too pissed off at me for doing that, but also what would be in my best interest as well.
Right, and I mean, you could always do like a short run too, and that should still be fine. And there's I'm not sure if you're also familiar with a company known as Hex Media.
Hex Media?
Yeah.
No.
They're based out of the UK, and they're going to be releasing their newest album. I mean, album. Wow. Newest movie soon that they also crowdfunded called Automata. It's like Tomata. And they're actually just about to do their second film festival, I believe. Their first one was over in the UK, and then I believe there's another one coming somewhere around here, and then maybe one more. I remember the guy from Hex Media was posting about it. But he's also going to be putting it out on the DVD. So I think what he's doing is he's just doing a quick short run of the film, and then he's just putting it out to the public. So even if you, like I said, so even if you did do a short run while you're working on the DVD to get out there before the public gets them, that way, you know, you can go through the DVDs and Blu-ray to make sure everything works, like the menus and everything. And then I think that's still okay. Because, I mean, as Hex Media is able to get into film festivals with this new movie, and, you know, it's coming out on Blu-ray and DVD, then I wouldn't see why you wouldn't be able to do a short run as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
What are some of your horror icons?
Horror icons, like as far as characters or actors, or
anything.
How about both?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, horror characters. Obviously, the big ones I grew up with, you know, Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers and Leatherface. I mean, those are all most people's favorites. Those are just iconic characters that, you know, that I don't know if we're going to ever see those types of characters again. I mean, it seems like there really hasn't been any in a long time. But yeah, I mean, those are some of my favorites. As far as actors, I mean, pretty much the same thing. I mean, I've been lucky enough to pretty much meet everyone that has played these characters. You know, Kane Hodder and Robert Englund and all these guys. So yeah, I'd say the same. I mean, you know, the actors and the characters together. Doug Bradley, he's become a friend over the years, who, you know, played Pinhead in Hellraiser. So those are definitely some of the top characters. I mean, I can appreciate almost every horror character for the most part, all the big ones, going back to the Universal monsters to even further back, Nosferatu and Phantom of the Opera and things like that. But just because growing up as a kid, I was just really into the '80s horror films, and I would say those are probably my top characters overall. And then, I mean, filmmakers like John Carpenter, of course, I'm a huge fan of, and of course he's in the documentary as well. I got to work on 2 of his music videos as well a couple of years ago. I was second camera and editor on 2 music videos for Distant Dream and Escape from New York. So that was pretty cool, being able to work with John Carpenter. So yeah, I mean, pretty much everyone that I've been a fan of, I've been able to work with at some capacity over the past couple of years.
That's amazing. That must have a little bit given your horror kid fanboy moment too as well. It's like, oh my God, I'm meeting one of my favorite icons, even though I'm not trying to be a fanboy right now. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a couple of moments like that. I mean, I was in the studio shooting these music videos to John Carpenter, and he's over there by the piano with his son playing the theme to Halloween. I mean, that's that's crazy to be that close to the creator of that iconic tune. And yeah, I mean, just you know, hanging out with I mean, Tom Savini's become a good friend over the years. I mean, I remember when I was a kid and I wanted to be a special effects artist, he was my number one guy that I looked up to, and I was always like, hey, I would love to be like the next Tom Savini or something. And I'm waiting in line forever to get an autograph, and now him and I are like going out for sandwiches and stuff, waiting in line together for something. So yeah, I mean, it's after a while, once you become friends with these guys, the fanboy thing kind of wears off, but it's a different level of
friendship, yeah.
Of friendship, yeah, where it's like, all right, you know, I'm still a fan of this person, but now we're just on a totally different level. So yeah, and of course, you know, hanging out with Corey Taylor. I mean, he's I'm a huge Slipknot fan. Met him probably about 10 years ago, and then we just keep running into each other here and there. And then next thing you know, he's like buying me a coffee at Starbucks, you know, while we're working on some projects together. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's definitely strange going to Dave Mustaine's house and having him offer you coffee and water or whatever, and sitting down with Alice Cooper and just chatting for an hour about horror films and stuff. I mean, it's yeah, definitely some fanboy stuff going on, but it's graduated to a different level in a lot of different ways.
Now, are you familiar with the old 8 Feeling to Die For series?
Yeah, I am.
Do you remember the movie called Wake Dead?
Like Dead. The title I'm not sure about it, but if you reminded me of the story, I might remember it.
The story is about like this family that was inherited this like cabin or this motel in a way off in the woods, and when they get there, it's more of a weird inbred family thing that's going on. And we got 2 of the killers, like I forget the brother's name, but one of the killers is known as Kane, and they're not so normal looking, and so they do like the dirty work. They kill off everybody that comes there, even tried to kill like the family members that have come to even claim the to inherit this cabin, but things don't really work out so well.
Yeah, it does sound familiar. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I do remember something like that.
Yeah, the twist is more like it kind of gives you like that weird, I guess I would say Texas Chainsaw vibe as well, which is almost like a cool nod in a way. But like the kids are out in the camper, and they're trying to get away from the killers, and then they see a cop. The cop comes and brings them into the back of the seat, and then instead of the sheriff being the good guy, instead it's part of that weird, like, screwed up family.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we brought him back to the mother, per se, and it's just so screwed up. But yeah, that's really like the biggest gif I can like think of without giving too much away for people too. But I already kind of spoiled that by saying, well, they're a pretty much fucked up family. But the I still remember almost 2 years ago now, if you can believe that. Been almost 2 years. This coming April, that the writer of Wake Dead was actually one person that we were first able to interview. It was actually him and his brother and a producer that worked on Ditch Day Massacre.
Mm-hmm.
But because I recognized the name Daniel Coughlin, I was like, that name sounds so familiar to me. And so I looked him up on IMDb, and that's when I found out he was the writer for Wake Dead. So, of course, my fanboy moment came out. I'm like, oh, shit, I'm going to be talking to him? Like, oh, wow. And, it was cool. And, we became pretty good friends, I would say. And we keep up to date with each other when we can, of course. So it's really cool, though. Like what you're saying, though, is you don't get that fanboy moment anymore because that weird transition, I should say, from like you were that fanboy or you had that fanboy moment, but now like you're actually talking with them. It's just like, oh, that's really cool. Now I actually look at him as a friend, which probably 10 years ago I never would have thought of that. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, Mike, what does this film that you are working on mean to you?
It's well, I mean, it's something. I mean, for me personally, it's bringing together 2 genres that I'm just been a huge fan of for a really long time. I mean, I appreciate the work created by every single person that I've interviewed. I mean, some of them have just created, a lot of these iconic characters and iconic music that have become so huge. So to be able to bring these two genres with all these great people together is just something that I feel really passionate about. It's something that I've learned a lot from, and something that I'd like to bring to the larger audience. I mean, it's a lot of people kind of know that metal and horror go hand in hand, but through watching the documentary, they'll get to hear a lot of interesting stories of how a lot of these metal artists were introduced to horror when they were kids. Things like that. What some of their favorite horror films are, and have them talk about why they think there's such a strong connection between these two genres. So I just wanted to create something that was different, that really hasn't been done like this before, and hopefully it'll lead to other things down the road. Hopefully I can continue working on projects, different films and things that bring the metal and horror world together. I mean, there's been a connection for a long time in horror films with horror soundtracks and things like that, but I'd like to keep that going to some capacity, even if it's bringing some of the metal artists into horror films even as performers. I mean, you got guys like Doyle, who said that he just wants to be a monster in movies. I mean, there are a lot of these guys just would love to be more involved in horror films. Even Corey Taylor wants to do more horror movies. So hopefully that's something that I can be a part of. Hopefully I can create some feature-length films and bring a lot of these people together as an ongoing type of thing.
That already sounds awesome, and I definitely wish you the best of luck as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, it really means a lot to be invited onto a show and be able to talk about all this stuff and spread the word. So I definitely appreciate it.
Well, of course, it's a pleasure to have you.
Like I said, if you didn't email us, I wouldn't have ever known this project was going to exist or existed, per se.
Now, Mike, before we get to the last question, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you want to talk about?
No, I mean, I think we pretty much covered a lot of the bases without really giving too much away, which is good. I definitely want to keep a lot of stuff, waiting for, out there, waiting for the fans to check out when it's all said and done. But no, I mean, I definitely think that we covered a lot of stuff. I just want to mention that the donations really help. I think that a lot of people are kind of squeamish about donating, even if it's $5. I mean, if 1,000 people donate $5, like that's something that helps big time. And people can go to the Indiegogo page, which they can find on metalhorror.com, and there are different levels of perks people can get. Of course, you could put in an order for a Blu-ray, DVD, T-shirt, and then there are all kinds of different tiers above that. And then, of course, there are also sponsorships, which would be good as well. If there are any companies out there who would like to have their, do any kind of sponsorships, then we can definitely discuss that as well. So there are a lot of different ways for people to donate, and donating. I mean, these campaigns really do work. I mean, I don't know that I could have come this far if the first campaigns hadn't helped, bring in as much cash as they had. I mean, it's still an ongoing thing with the current campaign. It's not a cheap project, and even though the campaigns are helping, it's still going to take a little bit more to just get the film completed, as far as sound mixing and attorney fees, insurance, and all that kind of stuff. So I definitely encourage people to check out the Indiegogo page, which again they can get on metalhorror.com, and please donate. It definitely helps make these projects come together a lot quicker. So anyone who's really interested in the project overall, if the sooner we can get funded, the sooner we can get it done and out there for everyone.
Excellent.
Yeah, and before Tessa give you the last question, I just want to quickly say to you, Mike, and for those listening as well, that if you are listening to this, even on our website, which is ehpodcast.com, we actually have a cool new thing for those that may not know, but I decided I wanted to try to help people like Mike here with the independent world when it comes to crowdfunding. And one of the things now you can find on our site is if you hover over support and go to crowdfunding, you can see all the type of crowdfunding that me and Tessa find fascinating or have backed. And metal horror here from Mike, or I should say the history of metal and horror documentary is on there as well. So if you are listening to this on our site, even, you just hover over support, hover over crowdfunding, and you should find a link to the history of metal and horror documentary to bring you right to the go-go.
Yeah, and I definitely appreciate you doing that. It's a big help. And on the Indiegogo, they'll also be able to see the sort of like the promo video, which they'll be able to get a little bit of an idea of what the documentary will look like overall. So yeah, thanks for doing that.
You're welcome.
Any other future projects in mind after this documentary is out, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of screenplays that I've written over the past couple of years that I'd like to get together at some point, and hopefully, if this documentary does well, I'll be able to have a nice network of people in the industry who can maybe help make this happen. And I think I kind of planned it this way. I didn't really get too much into trying to produce those films early on because I just didn't have the resources for it. So this documentary is something that, even though it's difficult in a lot of ways, it's something that's more manageable as opposed to trying to get a feature-length film together, which of course costs a hell of a lot more money. So I figured this would hopefully be a nice project to help branch out into different things later on down the road. So I have 2 horror films that I wrote some years back, and hopefully they'll come together at some point down the road. Hopefully not too far into the future, but they'll definitely be projects that I'll be thinking about a lot once this is all done.
Well, that's awesome, and I definitely can't wait, and I'm looking forward, and I hope I will be able to support your Indiegogo as well. I was looking at it, and I would pick up a Blu-ray or something from you too. But I'm just hoping my work even picks up so I can even do stuff like that even. But I will do my best. Otherwise, I'll just wait to maybe have to wait until it comes out, and hopefully cross my fingers that you have some type of DVDs or Blu-ray purchases on probably metalhorror.com or something. And,
yeah.
And speaking of metal and horror, now, Mike, before you go, I just want to first say thank you so much for your time and to chat with us about your awesome upcoming documentary, which I definitely look forward to seeing. And it did spark my interest because when you first were telling me about it with that email, I'm just like, at first I was like, how? Like, what? And then as I'm just like, man, this sounds like a really cool idea. Like, I don't think I've seen something like this. And as you were saying too, nobody's really done a documentary on this. So it's just like, yeah, no wonder why I've never really seen anything like this then. So,
it's a very cool idea.
Yeah, and just real quick, Mike, before we let you go, for people that want to stay up to date with you on the metal horror documentary, is there any type of social media outlet or anywhere to be able to catch up with the latest news with you?
Yeah. I mean, we post, I'll put some stuff up on the website on metalhorror.com, but for the more sort of up to date, quick updates, there's definitely social media, both, all 3, of course, with Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. It's at the Metal Horror. So it's at the Metal Horror for all 3 social media platforms, and on there'll be much quicker, more frequent updates and other things photos from the production and things like that. So yeah, please check those out as well. The social media has definitely been huge for the project. So I'm always interested in increasing the size of the audience there.
Nice. Nice. If I'm not already following you, then I'll be on it as soon after this interview is over with.
Awesome. Thanks.
And so once again, Mike, thank you again, and I can't wait, and best of luck to you, and I just can't wait, and when it comes out and stuff, maybe we can have you back on so we can really dive into the documentary a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to do that, and I'll definitely I'll keep you all posted on the progress and when things are done, and if there can be maybe if we hold some festivals or screenings in your area, then I'll definitely invite you to come out as well. So we'll definitely keep in touch along the way.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mike, and thank you everybody else for listening. And I was your host tonight, Podolsky.
And I was Tessa Baker.
And like always, people, make sure to stay scary.